I recently learned that I'm a bit of a unicorn. It may not seem that way, given my human-like appearance, but believe me, it's true. Let me tell you what I mean. I grew up with a single mom raising me and my two brothers on a nursing aide's wage and everything that comes with that. I was the only one in my family to graduate high school, the only one to go to college, and the fact that I made it here today is a great story. It's one of my favorites, actually. The reason that I made it, the reason that I was able to climb social and economic ladders, the reason I've been able to a large extent realize my potential, to find a meaningful purpose to devote my working life to, and to lead a fulfilling and prosperous life is because of education. And I'm incredibly grateful to all the educators who helped me along the way, who inspired me to devote my life to helping more people experience the transformational power of education, to realize their potential, to help them get good jobs and meaningful careers, and to lead fulfilling and prosperous lives. And I've met so many of you who are working toward that common vision, driving toward a future where the circumstances that a person is born into play less and less of a role in determining their life's outcomes. Stories like mine are often used as evidence that America is a meritocratic, highly mobile society. But like I said, ladies and gentlemen, I am a unicorn. And one of the most fun, though slightly egotistical aspects of being a researcher is finding yourself in the data. And what I've learned is that given the circumstances I've grew up in, there's actually less than a 1% chance that I would make it here to speak to you today. And so while we love to tell stories about people who defy the odds because they inspire us and lift our hearts, these stories also often mislead us into believing romantic notions that are detached from reality. And the reality is that there are more than 40 million working age adults in America who haven't earned a college degree, who aren't earning a living wage, and who don't have enough income to support a family of four. Half of us, don't complete a college degree by the age of 30. So while our education and training systems have worked well for me, and likely those of you listening, wherever you may be, there are many of us for whom our systems have not worked, especially those from historically marginalized groups. And that's not to say that we haven't made progress. We have and are continuing to. To give one example, since 1990, the share of adults with at least an associate degree has increased from 29% to 44%, or roughly half a percentage point each year. And we've especially seen an increase in bachelor's and graduate degree attainment. Degree attainment has also increased for both men and women and across racial groups, though inequities remain. College degrees, especially bachelor's degrees, are the surest and most traveled paths to opportunity in our nation. And we have to continue the hard work of expanding access to the transformative power of a liberal education and a college degree. And I'm a big believer that college promise programs are a major part of the solution, both based on the data that I've seen, as well as my life experience as a first-generation student who started out at a community college. At the same time, new and innovative models of learning and work have been emerging and evolving, including tried and true models like apprenticeship, pre-degree programs like community college certificates, as well as non-credit programs at community colleges, professional certifications and licenses, and many more. Sometimes these models are designed to complement the degree experience, while others forego degrees and connect directly to labor market opportunities. Some, like WGU Academy and Straighter Line, help prepare individuals to enter an educational pathway. Others, like many coding boot camps, complement the degree experience by providing last mile training that bridges the gap between education and work. And others forego the degree in favor of direct preparation for opportunities in promising careers, such as Merit America and Code Nation. So over the past decade, I've been investigating many of these new models and the extent to which they are delivering on the promise of education for individuals who face the greatest barriers to opportunity in our nation. And one particular model that I've investigated along with my colleagues is this nascent market of what we've referred to as Onramps. These are programs that are designed to connect adults who face the greatest barriers to further education and opportunity, largely serving learners of color with no more than a high school credential, typically in urban environments. And we looked at 9 programs specifically, which you see here, and they include a diversity of models, but they also have much in common. They're fast track, they're holistic models that combine sourcing and screening, skills development, intensive coaching and mentoring, and as well as strong employer partnerships, work-based learning experiences, and proactive job placement services. And what we learned in our largely qualitative study of these programs is that there is certainly a lot to like about these models, but they also face some challenges. One is that their program economics makes it difficult to scale. They are often reliant on a combination of scarce public and philanthropic dollars. Several work with employers chiefly through their corporate and social responsibility functions, which leads to the perception that hiring workers through the programs are goodwill rather than good business. And many workers struggle even after they're placed in jobs and benefit from employers who invest in ongoing support, such as guidance, mentoring, and continued opportunities to learn and grow professionally. But Onramps are just one model, of course, and there are many more. Another topic that I've spent a great deal of the past decade on is non-degree credentials. And I can tell you that making sense of what we know about non-degree credentials is a task that's bound to make your head hurt. Some suggest that non-degree credentials only have value when they're combined with college degrees, while others present them as promising alternatives to degrees. Some argue that promoting opportunities for our most underserved citizens is one thing that non-degree credentials work well for, while others suggest that these credentials are actually exacerbating race and class-based inequities by creating a two-tiered system. And because of how vast and diverse this category is, it's really difficult to generalize about it. Nevertheless, researchers have gathered a great deal of evidence over the past decade that's informed our understanding of the size, the scope, the quality, and the value of these rapidly growing pathways. And so here are 10 facts that underpin what we've learned. Number 1, non-degree education and training options are growing rapidly and have been for decades. We have, for example, 6 times as many workers who have a license or certification compared to the 1950s, and the number of sub-baccalaureate certificates issued by colleges and universities each year has doubled compared to the 1990s. And that doesn't even include the proliferation of non-credit options that, based on a recent survey, comprise 1 in 3 learners enrolled at community colleges. Number 2, non-degree credentials are now nearly as common as college degrees. 2 in 5 adults reported that they have earned some kind of non-degree credentials, compared to 46% who report having earned a college degree. And yet, while they're nearly as common, we're really only beginning to understand how they're situated in our education and training systems. Number 3, the market for non-degree credentials is incredibly diverse. No single type of institution that awards these credentials has captured more than 20% of the market. Vocational, technical, and community colleges combined represent about 1/3 of adults who have a non-degree credential, while about half of non-degree credentials are issued outside of traditional higher education institutions. Number 4, most workers and learners actually prefer non-degree options. In a survey that we fielded last year, 3 in 5 adults said they prefer a non-degree or skills training option over the alternatives because they perceive those options as more relevant, streamlined, and a better value proposition than the alternatives. Number 5, there's a fairly common view that non-degree credentials are dead ends, that learners stop pursuing further education after they get them. This one actually does not bear out in the data. In fact, it's far more common for learners to combine degree and non-degree credentials. Roughly half of workers who have a college degree have also earned some kind of non-degree credential, for example. And we also know that among adults who have earned both a certificate specifically and a degree, 2 out of 3 earned the certificate first, which means that the certificate did not preclude them from getting that degree. On the contrary, it was the first rung on the degree ladder. And indeed, those who combine degree and non-degree credentials experience better outcomes than those who earn either degree or non-degree credential in isolation. So for example, the premium associated with a non-degree credential is especially high for folks who have, for workers with an associate degree, that is. So it's both true that non-degree credentials, folks with non-degree credentials who go on to complete a degree benefit from that. And then the converse is also true, which is that those who have a college degree benefit from earning a non-degree credential. When they are earned in isolation, however, non-degree credentials do actually pay off, at least on average. So, for example, alumni of non-degree programs rate the quality and value of their credentials positively. 65% said they were worth the cost, 59% said their program made them an attractive job candidate, and 49% said their program helped them achieve their goals, outcomes that are comparable to associate degree programs with lag bachelor's degree programs. And then on the labor market side, the median annual earnings for workers with non-degree credentials was substantially higher than high school graduates, and the job satisfaction rates were comparable to workers with bachelor's degrees. Number 7, some non-degree credentials pay more than some college degrees. For example, workers with non-degree credentials in construction or information services earn more than workers who have an associate degree in liberal arts or a bachelor's degree in education for the arts. Number 8, not all non-degree credentials pay off, of course. So we know that non-degree credentials that provide access to middle wage fields like construction, as I mentioned, allied health, transportation and logistics, information services, and others earn a premium over high school. But there are also non-degree credentials that lead to jobs in low wage fields like cosmetology, childcare, and food service, where workers actually earn less than the average high school graduate. Number 9, and this is true across education and training programs, but it's also true of non-degree programs, which is that it's not the length of the program that counts, but the job or the career to which the program provides access. So while many people assume that longer programs necessarily lead to better outcomes, the evidence suggests that it's not seat time that matters, but whether what you learn and the credential you earn actually gets you that good job. So, for example, short-term certificates in protective services lead to higher wages than long-term certificates in office management. And as you see here, the relationship between the length of a certificate program and its quality and value is relatively weak. There's some relationship, but it's a relatively weak one. And number 10, outcomes are strongest for Black Americans and Latinos. So because of our nation's history of tracking students from low-income families, as well as students of color, into low-quality vocational programs in high school, many rightfully have their antennas up when it comes to non-degree options. But that phenomenon no longer appears to be the case today, at least in post-secondary. So for example, we have 8 times as many first-generation Black and Latino undergraduates in degree programs as non-degree programs. And a recent report also found that learners enrolled in non-credit certificate programs at community colleges are disproportionately white, in fact. And the other bit of positive news is that Black and Latino adults who complete non-degree credentials experience positive outcomes. For example, Latinos experience the highest wage premium associated with a certificate among racial groups, and Black Americans rate the quality and value of non-degree credentials the highest among racial groups. Well, that's certainly better than the alternative. That doesn't mean we should stop there. We have to encourage and support more learners of color to continue to pursue degrees, especially the bachelor's degree, which is the gold standard in education in the labor market. And while the evidence, as I mentioned earlier, supports the fact that learners do in fact stack non-degree credentials, that doesn't mean that they do so easily. So part of the solution, I think, is finding new and innovative ways to recognize learning wherever it occurs, so that no one, especially individuals from historically marginalized groups, is shut out from further education and opportunity, should they decide to pursue these options. And let me close with this. While there's certainly more to learn about new models of learning work, the fact remains that they are growing rapidly. And workers and learners today need help navigating the complexity of options available to them. So I encourage you to keep an open mind about these models, what's working and not working, and what we can learn from them. We will never have satisfying answers to all of our questions, but we cannot wait to act. Thank you.